Yes, good morning and welcome. You're definitely on Citizen TV. This is a Power Breakfast, and that's the hashtag to use this hour and for the next 2 hours or so. My name is Freddie Ndimoli. It's time to take a look at the headlines this morning, and I'm very privileged to have on my left Dennis Ntumbi, a security expert and also a former candidate for Nairobi Senator. Should I call you former? Because probably you continue doing the same.
So no, it's former for that particular position.
But you could still be a candidate for Senate.
I'm still a candidate for
Senator.
For Senate, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
On my right, I do have Kai Kissinger, human rights activist and attorney, also a former acting chief registrar of the judiciary. It's a privilege to have you, sir.
Thank you very much.
A quick look at the headlines this morning. IEBC lawyers accuse Raila of late filing. There's a preliminary duel. IEBC lawyers claim NASA was still filing court documents after Friday night's deadline, but Odinga's legal team terms this a sideshow and asks the commission to concentrate on its defense. It will be very interesting to hear Bona Kissinger's take on that. Similar headline of Daily Nation. Top court points out gaps in Raila petition. A Supreme Court registrar says NASA filed 4 papers on Sunday after the Friday midnight deadline, but NASA says the documents in question are not key to the petition and that they are mere additions to the primary papers filed on time. Of course, down there, the papers look very much alike today. It's the NASA petition on top, and the bottom is full of the new governors who've just taken oath of office yesterday. I do understand about 23 of them took oath of office yesterday, making it now 43. We are only left with 4 governors who are yet to be sworn in, and that's Anne Waiguru of Kirinyaga, Joyce Laboso of Bomet, Hassan Joho of Mombasa, and one other. I'll be telling you, I think, is it Mohamed Kuti? Yes, Mohamed Kuti of Isiolo. Those 4 will be sworn in today to make it 47. So, gentlemen, before we start, there's some news that is captured on the front page of the Daily Nation.
Correct.
The top strip: ex-minister's widow killed in road accident. This is Christabel Ouko, the widow of former Foreign Affairs Minister. Now, this is way back in the government of Daniel Moi. We're talking about Robert Ouko's widow. Christabel was traveling from Governor Anyang' Nyong'o's inauguration yesterday, and the vehicle she was traveling in, which was being driven by her son, rolled, and she lost her life in that. Gentlemen, this brings up back memories of what happened to the late Robert Ouko.
Correct.
Probably give you a chance just to send condolences.
First of all, my condolences to the late Ouko's family, the Ouko's family. And this certainly casts a very dark shadow and takes us back to an age that we thought would have been completely forgotten in this country, but unfortunately we're still seeing certain repeats of assassination style of politicians who certainly look like they're getting somewhere. And so this for us is a very dark reminder, actually almost at the completely wrong time in this nation. So my condolences to this family that has been an icon in this country, actually in terms of way long ago trying to democratize the political space. So it goes my condolences to them, and as a politician I'm certainly saddened by this loss. Yeah.
My condolences, again, my colleague, to pass my condolences to the family of the late Robert Ouko by the death of Christabel Ouko. It's just unfortunate that people lose lives through road accidents. More so, it will be a very big challenge or loss for the family, and I can imagine what the son is going through because he was a driver. The sad story is that it's unfortunate that she is dead and she has never known the truth, what happened to, or who killed Robert Ouko, and that's the sad story. But my sincere condolences to the family.
Okay, for our younger viewers who may not know what we're talking about, Robert Ouko was a one-time Foreign Affairs Minister in the government of Daniel Arap Moi. That's a retired president. Now, he was killed back in 1990, February of 1990, and his murder still remains a mystery. His killers have never been known, despite quite a number of inquests and inquiries into that particular incident. His wife passed on yesterday. And incidentally, I do understand that the area, that particular stretch of road where Christabel got an accident is a black spot. And Robert Ouko actually had an accident along the same stretch. Yes, just a few, I think a day or so before he actually disappeared. This is captured I think in one of the dailies, Once I get it, I'll let you know. It's captured in one of the dailies. Yes, they think because it's at Kipsitet along the Awasi Kericho Road. Coincidentally, yes, it was the same area where Dr. Oko had an accident a few days before his death. It's actually on the Daily Nation. That story is on page 10. Okay, Christabel was a mother of 7, 4 girls and 3 boys. We do send our message of condolences to the Oko family. Now, of course, let's take a look at the other big news, and that's to do with the governors. Yesterday, they were sworn in, quite a number of them, only 4 remaining now. The very first female governor was sworn in yesterday, that's Charity Kalukingilu Kitui. Now we officially have the very first female governor.
Absolutely.
But we also got to see what happened in Nairobi. Governor Mike Sonko took over. Officially, that event was attended by the president and his deputy. That was among the few inauguration ceremonies that were attended by the outgoing governors. Evans Kidero was there, and he gave a very nice speech. It was good to see that kind of
conceding.
Conceding, even the camaraderie, if we may call it that.
Correct.
It is an indication of mature politics. I know that it's been criticized, and we'll be looking at a particular headline where people are not very comfortable with that. But how did you see that?
I was at the event, and certainly, as you said, it's essentially what we're seeing, a mature brand of politics, that we put issues aside, conflicts aside, party affiliations aside, and we build this nation together. Certainly, as politicians, it was actually very comforting within this particular period of time to see politicians banding together. And I was there within the campaign period. Suddenly you see the words that were being thrown about, the kind of battle.
You were there,
yes,
even despite having lost in the Senate.
Correct, correct. So I know the kind of environment that was created by politicians, especially given that Nairobi suddenly works as a flag bearer of this country. If you suddenly win Nairobi, it almost looks like you've taken Jerusalem, certainly within this country. So there was a very bruising battle for Nairobi, and suddenly to see former Governor Kidero, swallowing that bitter pill and saying, congratulations and I wish you well, and handing over the Nairobi government as a gentleman to His Excellency Honorable Sonko, certainly for me was a good lesson, to learn, and it sort of just calms the tempers across the board. Also, our current women rep-elect Esther Passaris also walked there and present, and it was absolutely maturing and sobering. And suddenly the crowd was very charged, even to see Governor Kidero coming in there and congratulating them and all that, and them looking as brotherly and going back to the county government to hand over the keys and suddenly take Honorable Sonko, His Excellency, through certain aspects of his office. So I think that's the kind of politics that we want to see. Smooth transition of power, and suddenly shaking hands and saying, you know what, elections are over, the campaign is over, I'll support you whichever way. And this is almost, you see, it's like a man handing over a bride that they loved completely to another man and saying, you know what, I think you can take better care of this bride than I did.
Definitely, it's the kind of picture that we want to see. Probably Kenyans now have more opportunity to see transition in power, because now with 47 different governments all having similar transitions like this, because previously the only occasion you could see this is in the presidential transition.
Correct.
But now with 47 governors, probably even younger Kenyans will now get to find that okay, it's just a normal process. But definitely the kind of picture we want to see.
Yes, and one of the things we have to understand is, first of all, to understand that the club of 47 right now is no more.
Yes.
Because in the previous government we had 47 male governors.
It was a boys' club.
It was a boys' club. Now we have 3 of the women who have made it, and congratulations to Laboso, Charity Ngilu and Anne Waiguru. They have now broken the club of 47. So it's a good thing, and it shows that our politics in terms of governance and devolution is also devolving and giving powers and empowering women to take leadership in terms of the counties. We hope that in the next 4 years or so, the women will be leading in terms of reshaping the politics and the infrastructure in those counties. But more important to speak is about what you are seeing yesterday. and part of it today, and Mr. Ndimuli has talked about 4 are remaining, is a legal requirement and also a political requirement. Legal requirement in the sense that governors must be sworn in and must take oath of office and or allegiance to the Constitution. So it's a legal requirement. They can never take office without being sworn in. The second is a political requirement as well, because as unlike the swearing in of our governors and the president, when you are swearing in the president, is a legal requirement and a military requirement. But for the governor, is a legal requirement and political requirement. That's why you saw His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta joining the swearing in ceremony of Mike Mbuvi Sonko. And doing so is just to give him moral support that, look, we understand this is the capital, it was in the opposition before, now we've taken it over as a ruling party, so we will work very closely with you, because I think one of the challenges that ahead, which Sonko talked about and Kidero talked about, there was no proper working relationship between the county government of Nairobi and the State House. So right now it's faltered. So it means therefore that it's a good thing, and we hope that, I also saw, by the way, Kalonzo Musyoka joining Granton Samboya in the swearing-in ceremony in Taita. Yes. So it's also a maturity in terms of what it is. The fact that Kidero came and conceded is a very good thing. Of course, it's being faulted by other people that he shouldn't have done that. But for me, it's the maturity you are talking about in terms of politics. Yes. Because at the end of the day, we are one, and we need to take this city or county government somewhere.
And now that we're still in Nairobi, and now as we're talking, they have the national government. So we're talking about Jubilee Party. They head the national government. They have an overwhelming majority in the National Assembly, in the Senate, in the County Assembly of Nairobi. They're already talking about whom they're going to appoint as Speaker of the County Assembly. Correct. They have the governor. They have the senator. They have a huge number of MPs. Do you think that this time round, yes, now they have the perfect opportunity to actually do something constructive in Nairobi?
You know, I honestly wouldn't say that a tiny of numbers presents any opportunity to work best, because they still had the tiny of numbers, other than the fact that they didn't have Nairobi in the last government. I think for me, essentially, what we need to see is the national government's desire to build on devolution and also defend devolution. The opportunity I'd love to see is that they need to make Nairobi the model, the case study of service dispensation, of democratization. And one of the things that was keen to note is I wanted the president to say that His Excellency Mbuvi, my government will work in close relationship with your government. Because they're absolutely not one. There's a separation. Those are two governments. Yes. But I think the president was careful to mention that, given the fact that he's a party leader to this gentleman. And I'd like to see that independence there, about the collaboration with the two. I think the opportunity that we have in this country, you see that there's better citizen participation. I looked at the citizens and certainly saw that there's hope. And they feel sort of engaged thereabout. And I honestly, given the fact that we call Nairobi the bedroom, or the sitting room, actually, the sitting room of this country, and you know, where we almost have about 15% of our population thereabout, and Nairobi has one of the gravest issues. 3/4 of its population live in abject poverty and are slipping into poverty. So one of the things that we'd like to see is that Nairobi being used as a case study to build on devolution and basically service dispensation, which has been a grave issue. So you know, the professionalization of services thereabout is something that I really look in.
Now, gentlemen, of course, Nairobi has a raft of problems. Now we are focusing on Nairobi because even it's been given prominence. You see, even in the front pages of the Daily Nation, it's Governor Mbuvi Sonko who's given the first slot for the picture. That means it's just number one. He's governor number one. Despite being county number 047. But if you were to be asked what should be Sonko's priority among the 10 things that he could do, which is the one thing?
I think it came out very clear yesterday when he was being sworn in. And we must give, first of all, credit to Sonko. Sonko is a man who came from Noya. He was a member of parliament of Makadara for a very short time. I think it was 2 years when one of the MPs there died, Mugabe. He took over, and then after that, the next election he was already a senator, and he only served the Senate for 5 years, and now he's a governor. So he understands the city and the challenges of the city. But when he was taking over leadership of the county, he mentioned one thing that for him is very critical, that he wants to return back the city into the old days. And he went into a lot of issues. But what stood out for him was the fact that the city is very dirty. So to him, that is the first priority.
Clean up the city.
To clean up the city, the basic thing. And I'm told that he even made an effort to go to Rwanda to see how Rwanda operates in terms of Kigali. So for him, I think the key thing is just how do I clean the city. But he has already done that. He has already begun, because he had the Sonko rescue team, which already began like a week ago, even before he was sworn in. So I think for him, cleaning up the city is going to be a #1 priority. I know it's an easy thing to do compared to other things. Number 2, he needs to look into issues of security within the city, and I think that's one of the key things that he must have to deal with.
But at least the first one
is garbage.
You know, first of all, you know, as a politician who reside in Nairobi and have keen interest in Nairobi, there's a common adage that goes within the political circles: Nairobi ina wenyewe. And one of Osonko's biggest beats will be to fight cartels. That will be a fight, in fact, for his political career to survive. Because everything in Nairobi, from garbage collection to everything, is attached to cartels. And that has to be his biggest fight. And by the way, you moving around Nairobi, you understand that Nairobi is so sectorized that there are some areas that if you're a Jubilee politician, penetrating will be extremely hard. So one of the things that he must have the ability to collaborate with various political fields. He must have such an innate capability of you know, a conciliatory spirit, so that he can be able to heal the divides, because already the country is split in the middle. And if you see the country is split in the middle, yes, you know, you know, you're looking at Kibra, you're looking at Mathare, you're looking at other areas basically that opposition took that they didn't have. And he's given several points in terms of what he wants to do within his 100 days. And certainly those ones are, you know, revolving around traffic, garbage collection, safety around paving, the issue of hawkers and all that.
It's very easy to give a raft of 15 things that you're going to do. We know it's not going to be that easy. And if one does one thing and does it well, that could just guarantee.
And you know, personally, look, I've seen you know, him using Team Sonko to collect garbage, and you know, that doesn't quite jazz me. I want to see the professionalization of garbage collection and disposal in this country. I want to see a professional you know, outfit doing that. But also, one of the key things he has to fight is the culture, the littering culture of the residents of Nairobi, certainly. Because we've lived in a dump for so long, we don't mind throwing anything outside the window. We don't even have structured way in terms of how we dispose garbage. But even as a security expert, the thing that he has to do within the first 100 days is to make sure that he takes control of this Nairobi away from cartels. Nairobi is completely sold out to cartels. You can't even do one thing without getting rid of the
in a cartoon on the Daily Nation, page 14, which captures what's happening in Nairobi. So long, gentlemen, Kidero moving away from this broken down car. This is a caricature, a cartoon on page 14, which is Nairobi County. And even you do not have the bonnet covering the engine, you instead have a big dustbin full of trash, and on the back left of that vehicle is the cartels.
Yes,
absolutely. And I think that has really been captured. So I think everyone is in agreement that probably garbage collection should be the one thing that if Governor Sonko does well, it will guarantee.
But you see, that is under the control of cartels. There's already contracts, formal contracts that the county government has gotten into with these cartels, and the way they collect garbage is based on how they are paid. You're paid based on tonnage and the distance that you go to dump that. You understand? So there are certain things that, you know, he has to look at the contractual obligations that the county government has with this sort of cartels. I'm telling you, there's so much work to undo for him even to be able to bring in a functional system. And good luck to him.
Leadership is not for the faint-hearted. And one can't write off Sonko.
Correct.
I think he has a good history in terms of what he can do tangibly on the ground. But we need to have a difference between what he's doing in terms of campaign strategies to get to power and what he actually does when he gets to power.
Correct.
Because those are two different things. One can write a
sustaining Sonko rescue team as garbage collection team,
and that's where he will have the first legal challenge. One is that this Sonko team is his own outfit. Apparently, it has now been registered as a foundation, as an NGO. So he might want then to use that foundation to collect money so that he can support the Sonko team, because the Sonko team cannot fit into county government structures, because there are systems and requirements of how people have to fit in. So those are some of the dynamics that he will have to deal with.
Okay.
But for me, the easiest thing, even I understand cartels is really a nightmare for any sitting governor in Nairobi, and this is something that has been inherited over the years, and this becomes a challenge. But for me, the easiest thing that he will do is what we've talked about. Just how easy can he do to clean the city? Because it's not all about fighting cartels. We know that it's a challenge in this country.
Okay.
But just what tangible thing can you do?
Okay, in a short while we'll be discussing issues to do with the county governments beyond Nairobi, and one of the headlines, and this is on the front page of the Daily Nation, reads fears of massive job losses as new governors take office. Some have come with sweeping changes. Firing is in one case in Tharaka Nithi. The new incoming governor has actually suspended over 1,000 members of the county workforce. What does this mean? My panel will also be growing bigger. I can see Sandra Ochola and Nerima Wako already checking into studio. So let's take a break. Our breakfast continues.